It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulty.
What is going on, YouTube? Michael J. Crawford, the anti-trekker, here with you. Good Sunday morning. BIRDOPREY starts us off by saying, "Sinners repent, let Karoga cleanse your soul." You do not want that. You might as well quite literally take a deal with the devil. Black Adam claims second. Theron 2142 says, "I'm guessing Bird is first." Yes, you are right. Fleetpaw Swiftback is fourth, but says third. Theron says shh for some reason. Black Adam was first when it officially started. Well, technically that's true. So Black Adam was first. Nitpicking Nerd mentions the fact that Google is a number and some interesting correlation there, which I will not get into because I don't want to bring the wrath of Google down on me today. I'm just not up for it. And let's see. So Fleetpaw says, "So I'm officially second." No, you would actually be officially third because Theron 2142 was second. BIRDOPREY, that's Dirty Lie and Checker. It's Gamora became Karoga, and you know it. Yeah, I apologize. I was actually mixed up. Fun-filled, interesting thing is that there's a translation problem in the Bible in the Old Testament. There are two cities mentioned, Sodom and Gomorrah. I thought it was Sodom, but Bird straightened me out. It's actually Gomorrah is actually the predecessor to Karoga. And Bird might be wondering, why am I so eager to go ahead and concede that it's Gomorrah, not Sodom, and maybe he should look it up. Because, yeah. Black Adam says, "Hey, Trigger, I'm official first. Flips table. Where did I get this table?" Good morning, Adam. Life of Matthew says, "Good morning, all. Getting expelled from school for stating to his teachers that there are only two genders." It's only... yeah. I tell you, I thought about like doing a super chat reward for the regular live streams where Picard looks up and goes, "There are two genders." But then again, Patrick Stewart would probably go for 4. And let's see. BIRDOPREY says, "Yes, Fleetball." Okay, talking about that. John DeMarco says, "Good morning. Mr. Miles is in the house, claims to be first." A little bit off. Mr. Miles then says, "Nobody but me counts. If anyone said first before I did, ban them." No, Mr. Miles, no, not going to do that. Dan throws a clip of the Star Trek V God Monster for some reason. Fleetpaw Swiftback says, "Good morning." Good morning, Sweetpaw. Or Fleetpaw. Mr. Miles says, "Hey, Trick, I just realized moments ago why feminists will never like me. My name is just one letter away from males." Yes, you are probably right. You are probably right. I always have spare tables around for people to flip. That's an interesting, well, that's something to have a spare of. Is that Captain Archer's beagle? No, that is my beagle. That is Auntie. That is actually her name. And she is a 7-year-old beagle that we adopted as a rescue about a week ago. Theron says, "Been watching Enterprise, not too bad." Yeah, I think Enterprise gets a lot of unfair flack. Just because it was the last of the second generation Trek shows doesn't mean it was the one that killed it, honestly. Let's see. Dan throws a link in for YouTube, says, "How many times do you think Wesley gets told to shut up in this episode because someone on Instagram is saying it's once and other people say it's more?" I honestly don't know. I haven't tried to do a shut up Wesley study or anything. So, you know, you can always check. Let's see. That's where the dog ended up after Scotty tried to transwarp beam it. Okay, whatever. Mr. Miles says, "Anti-Trigger isn't awake. Look at those eyes." No, I'm very, very tired, actually, Mr. Miles, and that's why I started a little bit late today. I had trouble getting out of bed, to be honest with you. We didn't get to bed till pretty late, and because once again, unfortunately, poor little Auntie was scared out of her mind as some of the neighbors were setting off fireworks. She was just completely freaking out about that. And let's see, Anti-Trigger, let's see, bless the like button, says 47 Yorktown. Thank you. He's sleep streaming. I feel like it. Mr. BIRDOPREY retracted a couple of messages for some reason. And then Theron says, do it for reasons. BIRDOPREY says, I know what they did in Sodom. I assume the other one was different. No, Sodom and Gomorrah are referred to exactly the same way, BIRDOPREY. Both cities were destroyed simultaneously by God for the same reasons. And so, yeah, there weren't like in Sodom, they weren't doing one thing. In Gomorrah, they were doing another. No, in both cities, it was pure hedonism, and that's why they were destroyed. Well, they for their direct disobedience and thumbing their nose at God. And a lot of that through is because, well, it was primarily because they were committing all sorts of hedonistic acts. Theron says, we need more Picard super chats. And right now, I think we only have one true Picard super chat, and nobody ever picks it. Let's see. Nitpicking Nerd says, I can edit Patrick saying that. Off. 2 genders. One of my favorite Enterprise episodes is Silent Enemy. See, the problem is, and this is a problem I have, and I think it's just because of my age more than anything else. I have a tough time remembering any of the second generation Trek episodes by name. You got to say the one about, and and I'll get it. But when you say Silent Enemy, I'm not 100% sure. There are some exceptions, of course, like In a Mirror Darkly or The Inner Light, stuff like that. That obviously those are considered great moments in Trek. The Pale Moonlight is another one. I'm only just finishing first season. Well, I'll tell you, I think Enterprise gets really good in the 3rd season and is excellent the 4th season, except for the season premiere was really bad. Enterprise was better than Voyager. I agree on that. No, it's Archer's Beager, because Anti-Checker likes Enterprise more than TOS, and that's how he shows his love. He stole Archer's dog. Well, first of all, a beager is not a dog, and second of all, I don't like Enterprise more than TOS, and third of all, I wouldn't show my love by stealing something. What killed Enterprise was being on UPN and always getting shuffled around, preempted, or delayed. Excuse me. Actually, Fleet Paul, I think UPN was already defunct by the time Enterprise finished its run. But honestly, it was ratings that killed it. But what killed the ratings was that, it's unfortunately the way that it works in television is that typically the ratings of a show that are related to another show can be typically, like if one show people left with a great feeling, they go to the next one in lower numbers. And you can see that in film as well. Like, for example, The Last Jedi pissed off a lot of people, but it still made a ton of money because all those people had to see it to get pissed off. However, that anger was reflected in the lower box office than expected for Solo. And so, and it's the rule of diminishing returns. If you produce crap, your next movie will make less, or your next television show will get lower ratings. If you make a masterpiece, then the next one will tend to get more. And so that's kind of how it goes. Let's see. I love how the dog has his head off the pillow. Yeah, she does that a lot. Fleet Paw Swiftback says, I just bought that shirt. Yes, I love this shirt. And yeah, she moves every now and then. Hedonism isn't necessarily looked down upon in Kuroga. It's all about the male-female ratio. Of course it is, Bird. Valvoline commercial before your stream. God likes oil. I guess so. I don't know, because the system, I think, bases the ad on a combination of Google's information on you and Google's information on the video in question. So, like, I usually get, when I rewatch one of my Sunday live streams, I usually see an ad for PureFlix, which is like a Christian version of Netflix. It's Netflix with crappy Christian programming. Good morning to you. Some of it is okay. I mean, like, I'll say this. For kids programming, I think the VeggieTales are pretty good. However, there's very, very little else in the world of Christian entertainment that is any good. Which is just unfortunate. Let's see. Good morning. I'm going to go off topic to ask everyone to sign the petition for Ollie. Disney denied his father to use a Spider-Man's etching on Ollie's tombstone. Ollie was a major Spider-Man fan. Yes, that is fine, the joke. I am okay with that. And if you have the link for that petition, go ahead and put it in, and I or one of the mods will make sure that that post is accessible. But yes, I heard about that, and it makes me absolutely sick to my stomach that they would actually fight over copyright on a freaking tombstone. The captain's chair from Voyager is also used on Enterprise as a chair in the bridge of the Andorian ship. I never noticed that. Quantum torpedo is that quantum torpedo, that like button in the face. Mr. Miles says, TOS stole your heart. Are you sure stealing is wrong? I wouldn't say TOS stole my heart. Kind of crappy. Enterprise only got 4 seasons. It deserved 8. I agree. And actually, I mean, the plan with all the second generation shows was to go 7 seasons. And I think Enterprise could have had a good last 3 seasons. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. You start each Sunday live stream with 5 seconds of Faith of the Heart. I mean, it did great for Enterprise. What event made you become religious, and why the Christian God? Interesting question, Slash. I would not say that an event made me become religious. That's the and I'll get into that in just a second. But let me address Fleet Pause, Super Chat, and stuff first, and so then we can get into that for just a second. That's an interesting question, though. So going through the rest of the chats addressed to me, Black Adam says, check Discord, read it out. I sent to Josh and want to know what you think. All right, Black Adam, what do you say? Animation idea, you see Pooh, you on the table with a sign, has 2 lights. One says male, one says female. You say, how many genders in Picard Dragon? There are 4. And then you try to re-educate him. He's about to leave you. You look at Picard and you say, how many genders are there? And he says, there's 4. You stay away from him, and when you hear, you did it just, and you hear a "Did you just gender me?" and you have a gun show and his blonde wig and his crown, and then you Pooh, and then Pooh you says, "I will take his place," and you recreate Picard with a human version of you in Picard's place. It says 15 years ago you left the Federation. Says kicked out for saying there's 2 genders, and you see you getting arrested screaming there are 2 genders. Female voiced by Mrs. Antichecker, and you see her from when she asks, and her face is blacked out by a lamp, and the security officers are Pookie and Auntie. Wow, that is a mouthful. That could be interesting, but you'd have to see if Joshua picks it up. I'll see what his interpretation of it, because he does a great job with pretty much everything sent to him. And how is Pookie? Pookie is fine, except that she's been a little noisy lately, and I think I don't think it's because of Auntie coming home. I think it's more because of all the excitement with the 4th of July. Have your first Super Chat. Thank you, Fleet Paw. The Picard one. I believe the Picard one is Super Chat number 25.
This isn't the first time I've been tormented by a poop emoji.
There it is. Our one and only Picard Super Chat. Thank you, Fleetpaw. I do appreciate it. What did the Enterprise look like between the Enterprise series and the original series? Apparently, like what it looks like in Discovery. And Dan says, what do you think of this from TOS? Says a picture from the episode The Empath. The fact that the bench that Kirk is sitting on looks like an agonizer. I never noticed that before, but I think it's hilarious. BIRDOPREY has thrown the link to the Super Chat list. Okay, so as far as becoming religious, back to /.dash's interesting question. When I was an atheist for a time being, particularly my teens through like early to mid-20s, and honestly, what drove me to rejecting the idea of God is the same as what drives, unfortunately, a lot of people to rejecting the idea of the existence of God, and that is the hypocrisy within the church. That when you look at the church, you look at the things that it seems like pretty much all that the leaders of various churches want is your money. And they want to, they just want your money, and then to tell you some story about some happy guy from 2,000 years ago that wants to give you hugs and unicorns and rainbows. And I got tired of the church basically not being consistent with itself and not being consistent with its own ascribed holy documents, and I walked away from it all. Now, then I kind of got into the whole, well, prove to me there's a God kind of thing that is a typical thing for atheists, that, unless I see evidence to the, clear and present evidence to the existence of God, evidence that I judge, I will accept as proof of the existence of God. Until that happens, I am not going to accept said belief. And I kind of picked up at that point as a hobby, like amateur cosmology, if you will. And so basically like what Dr. Alex does professionally, I was reading up on as a layperson and actually interested in like I started reading the books of Stephen Hawking and Einstein and stuff like that. And it became really interesting to me, the nature of the universe as a whole. And there was a couple of things that kind of changed my perspective on the universe. One is string theory. That there are a growing number of people who have absolutely zero problem saying, I reject the idea of God because there's no evidence. However, because of this mathematical anomaly, I'm going to accept that there are multiple physical universes and these giant brains exist that collide, and that's what causes singularities that birth universes and stuff, with zero evidence, by the way. And they're perfectly okay with that. However, they think that the idea of God is laughable, right? And I started to realize that some of the same hypocrisy that takes place in the church is also taking place in the scientific community, which really bothered me, because the scientific community should be all about intellectual honesty above all else. Wherever science is supposed to be agnostic. Wherever the evidence leads is where you go, period. And it doesn't even have anything to do with, religion or anything like that. But people were trying to come up with these ideas in the scientific community specifically so that they can explain the universe without invoking a God. And some of them are absolutely ridiculous. The quantum mini worlds theory, right? Absolutely ludicrous, and yet people are perfectly willing to accept it on no evidence except for a mathematical anomaly. That's it. There is no physical evidence to other universes existing. And so I began to say, well, then if you are going to reject the idea of God based on lack of evidence, then you should also reject the idea of multiple universes or any of that crap unless you have evidence. And then I started looking at, well, if you want to go, because if, there's the old principle of Occam's razor, whatever solution assumes the least tends to be the correct one. And when you look at the universe as a whole, the problem that you run into is a concept that some people refer to as infinite regression or whatever, which is the idea that you have to have a beginning point, right? There is not an infinite amount of time that the universe could have existed, because you cannot cross an actualized infinite. That is a logical impossibility. So if the universe had a beginning, then something had to cause said beginning, and that's where you get to the first cause argument that many Christians and other religious people tend to espouse. The first cause argument is that something had to trigger the universe into existing. That something being a creator of the universe. Creator of the universe is how one would define a God with a capital G. So, long story short, a lot of thinking about the nature of the universe, the need for first cause of some kind, got me to the point of kind of a general theism. As far as Christianity specifically, that is something that I think is interesting, is that if you, and something that is subjective, that is a Christian, you enter into a relationship with the divine directly. Now, if you reject the existence of the divine, it is impossible to enter into a relationship with the divine. So that's one problem right there. Is so when some atheists say, well, I go to church and I don't feel anything, or they say, I used to go to church and felt something, but that was just mass hysteria or delusion or whatever. And so, the funny thing is, I'm not the touchy-feely Christian, right? I'm not the person jumping around and hooting and hollering and saying, praise Jesus kind of thing. I'm not an emotional Christian. And in fact, the way that Corey, our pastor, put it when talking to Mrs. Antitrekker about it, is that some people, most people have their faith in their heart, right? Oh, are you okay, girl? Most people have faith of the heart, right? Most people have faith of the heart. Some people, like myself, are more of an intellectualized faith, and that's me. I'm not the emotional type of connection guy. However, it is, if you have that kind of experience with Christ, it should change you as a person. And you should be able to instinctively understand that you had contact with something beyond you. And that is purely subjective. Can't prove any of it. Not going to even try, because that's simply not even possible. And anything that I would tell you at that point, if you were a non-believer, you would either laugh at or simply say I was delusional. So, call me delusional. So that's the long-winded answer. Sorry. Orville Nation is in the house, says, Anti-Trekker! Orville! Let's see. And let me try to get caught up here. Sorry for falling so far behind. Mr. Captain says, Anti-Trekker, so if we see Rian Johnson's new movie, or skip it and hope it tanks because of The Last Jedi, or see it in the spirit of forgiveness. I don't know, what is Rian Johnson's new movie? Does it look good? I don't know. I don't know. Does Rian Johnson have a new movie coming? I didn't even know that. Because I thought his Star Wars stuff was canceled. So I hadn't heard anything about that. Let me see. Go to Rian Johnson's IMDb page. And let's see. Now there's still, it says Untitled Star Wars Trilogy Episode 1 is announced. However, I kind of doubt it. Knives Out, apparently, is in post-production. Detective investigates the death of a patriarch of an eccentric combative family. That sounds uninteresting to me. But if that's the kind of movie you want to see, go for it. It looks like Chris Evans is in it. Daniel Craig is in it. So it's got a solid cast, but that doesn't mean that it'll be any good. Enterprise deserved more. Agreed, Orville Nation. Thundercat says, Editor, do you know about the member button that's been added by YouTube works like Patreon? Yes, but I don't have access to it yet. And I don't know that I will set it up if I do, because it does work like Patreon, which is nice to get more support for the channel. However, it also is subject to Google's whims, if you know what I mean. And they've already been trying to deplatform this channel, and I can only take so much of that. Did you know there was a character in Enterprise Season 1, Episode 1 that was actually called TOS? I did not know that. That's a new one on me. So it was a Vulcan named Toss? Okay. I didn't know that. Anyway, a lot of different flyers and leaflets through my door from different religious people, churches, and places. Yeah, well, they do that. Not really my thing. Is a guy who preaches outside of a shop in town, and there's no policeman. There are people who don't like him around town. Well, Dan, I without knowing off the top of my head what nation you're in, if you're in the United States, well, there's freedom of speech, so he can stand if as long as he's in a public place, he can say whatever he wants, as long as it doesn't violate someone else's rights. We don't know, and we can't as humans, and cannot accept not knowing things, so we attach labels to things we don't understand. We also decided that which we have no current proof of does not. Let's see. We also decided that which we have no current proof of does not exist. Okay. And if Emperor Constantine did not make Christianity the official Rome religion, it might have faded away when Rome collapsed. That's very true. But he did. We do that for comfort. We try to explain the understanding that which the mighty human race does not understand. Okay. Darren says, a theory without physical evidence, imagine that. Well, and that's the thing, is that a mathematically sound theory is fine, right? And that's what quantum mechanics and relativity and stuff is. However, if it creates a byproduct that is an impossibility, such as an infinite number of universes, right? That's not even possible. Then, it becomes kind of silly to accept it just because it's mathematically sound. Some religious people do not like Star Wars because they believe Jedi was meant to be a religion. Well, those people are called idiots. The difference is that string theory is just a theory. You're claiming Christian God with zero evidence, also kind of hypocritical. Actually, no, and that's the point. I said that the actual experiential part of it is completely and utterly subjective. And so that's why I cannot prove it to you. So there's that. The only way to find God, you can't be shown God. The only way to find God is to seek God. Genuinely seek God. If you don't do that, you'll never find him. Star Wars was supposed to be space World War II. Well, it kind of is, yes. Doesn't that just push the question, what created God? Well, that's the easy answer that many atheists try to give is that, well, where did God come from? And there are a lot of different answers to that, right? The most common of which is that God is exists beyond the concept of time and therefore doesn't require a creation, that's one possibility. The other, and the one that I tend to go with, is that God created himself about 2,000 years ago, where the Father spawned the Son rose and became the Father. And since the Father exists outside of time, therefore he was able to create the Son. And it's basically just a predestination paradox, if you will. But that does explain why the Christian Bible is laid out the way it is. Let's see. My Nan rejects the idea of the Da Vinci Code. Never read the Da Vinci Code. Never really interested in it. And if God always was, then isn't that an infinite universe? Well, I just talked about that. Instead of gods or deities like us humans define, I think there might be beings like the Q in the universe. There could be. Kind of doubt it, but there could be. Joseph is here. Says, hiya, Trekker Chat. Greetings from Turkey. How you doing, my friend? Being so evolved that they are omnipotent. Well, here's the thing. That would be an impossibility. Omnipotent is a term that is thrown around way too casually, but it is really only possible for one being in the universe to be omnipotent, which is one of the reasons that I reject pretty much any polytheistic kind of idea that there is a race of gods that participated in the creation of the universe. Now, I know most of those polytheistic ideas have some specific god that was a creator of the universe, and then the other gods just kind of hung out with that person. But whatever, I think that's not omnipotence is something that requires singularity, because omni means all, potent means power, omnipotent means one that controls all power. Q is not omnipotent. And you can only have one omnipotent being. Because anybody else, if somebody else controlled some of the power, then you do not control all of the power. Mr. Miles says, Bird of Prey, yes, that is an issue, but I know that Antioch will say, he'll say God isn't part of the universe, but the same applies to anything before the Big Bang, possibly time itself. But he goes without applying to God the unknown. Well, I think I said what my personal theory is as far as that's concerned. And John says God was not created, it's always existed outside of time. That is the most popular explanation. What came first, chicken or the egg? The egg. And Theron agrees the egg came first. Of course the egg came first. Some other animal laid a mutated egg that became a chicken, so it was a chicken egg. Very, very true. All right, so let's see. It was Big Bang Theory. Sheldon's mother said she would believe in aliens if they also believe in a creator. That's kind of a stupid question. Aliens existing or not existing have nothing to do with whether or not there's a creator. I would say it would be interesting to meet aliens and see what their spiritual beliefs are, but I don't think that aliens existing or not existing and the existence of a creator are mutually exclusive in any way, shape, or form. Black Adam says, a priest once told me that if Jesus returned today the same way he did originally, nobody would believe his mother and everyone would think he was a crazy street preacher. You're right. Orville Nation throws $5 into the chat. Thank you so much. I'm digging your little workspace there. Thank you, my friend. This is home. So, but thank you. I do appreciate it. Let's see. There is no God to believe that is some kind of higher being. Let's see. Sovereign says, there is no God to believe that some kind of higher being took its time to create the universe and afterwards doesn't care about its creations. It's stupid. That's great. But that's also a straw man argument. And please don't make straw man arguments if you're going to engage me on that. Because I never said that a higher being created the universe and afterwards doesn't care about its creations. And in fact, any Christian that tells you that is not a Christian, because that's not what the Bible actually says. But if you want to, say that would be stupid, I agree. That would be stupid. Oh, I forgot about the weekly churchin' at 11 p.m. What did I miss? Well, not a whole lot, Fed Doc. We've been all over the map today. Chicken and egg thing is just one of those sayings. It's like glass half full or half empty. I know. They took Stargate and Farscape off Netflix. I'm still mad. Well, I took Netflix off my pay. God does care about his creation, says John. Agreed. Also, is that background growing? I could swear it was smaller last time. I'm not sure which background you're talking about. Do you believe that you need to go to church to be considered Christian? Well, it's funny. Do you need to go to church to be a Christian? Yes and no. If there is no church in your area, can you still be a Christian? Yeah. However, if there is church in your area, are you called to attend said church? Yeah. If you, and to be honest with you, if you're saying, well, do I have to go? Then you're asking the wrong question. It's just like when people say, do I have to be baptized? Do I have to, whatever it is. Do I have to? Do I have to? Do I have to? Look, if you actually believe the good news of the gospel message of Christ, then for you to say, do I have to do X, means you don't understand the message. Because if you're actually saying, do I have to, then either you don't believe or you don't understand. Let's see. Man was attacked in my town because he goes to a church on a Saturday. He was attacked by people who think you should only go on Sunday. Well, that is just ludicrous. And in fact, I generally, like the church that I attend, that one right there, has services on Saturday night and Sunday morning. And whenever possible, we go to the Saturday night service. That's just the one we prefer. And so that's just stupid, and they should really understand what the verse that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, and what that means. You can actually watch all the Stargate episodes for free online. Fans set up a site to watch them. Well, you can watch them on Hulu. You didn't answer the question, why the Christian God? Why not Thor or Zeus? Well, first of all, Thor or Zeus are not capital G gods. And if I'm talking about a creator God, I would reject that out of hand. And I did say that the experiences that led me directly to Christianity were completely subjective and not worthy of me trying to throw that at you, because I can't prove it, I can't disprove it, I can't demonstrate it to you. It's just a experiential part of it. So I can't answer that in a satisfying way for you. It's not like I can put it in a box and hand it to you, which I know is what you would want. Christianity has already taken hold in some parts of the Roman Empire. All Constantine did was stop his followers from being killed for practicing it. That is true. I know where God is. He's trapped in the galactic center. He needs a starship. That's what we all forgot. That's the truth. 45 watching and only 14 likes. Come on, fellow nerds. Give old Anti-Trekker, he really is old, his childhood pictures are cave paintings, to help out and hit that like button. Thanks, Stromer. You're such a jerk. All right, and let's see. Man, my computer's being a little weird. Sorry. If God would care about his creation, and if humans have been created in his image, why would God let things like World War I, World War II, and stuff like that happen to his beloved creations? That is a little argument known as the problem of evil. And the idea is that, well, if God actually loves us, then why would he let bad things happen? And quite frankly, wow, that's a topic that you can get into quite a bit. The short answer is we have dominion over the earth. That is the way of things. It was set up so that earth was kind of given to us, and because of the fall, then basically we have a relatively sinful nature, and that sinful nature is reflected in what you see in human history. Human history is what happens when you have sentient life that is not God. But God doesn't let World War I, World War II, and stuff like that happen, right? He doesn't. He didn't cause World War I and World War II to happen. Man did. And so, could God have prevented World War I and World War II? Sure. Why didn't he? I don't know. Ask him. But I think that the long and short answer is that if God does indeed exist outside of what we call time, he can see the long-term repercussions of any event. And so he can, in fact, tell how it's all going to turn out 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 years from now, or however long this whole universe thing is supposed to go. And if he has a specific intent, whether it be that as many people as possible achieve salvation and all that, which is the general Christian concept, if that is the intent, and allowing World War I and World War II means more people will achieve that status of salvation than not allowing it, then ultimately World War I becomes an objectively good thing. Afternoon, Anti-Trekker and fellow Sundians. How you doing, Peter? A mathematical scientific theory is not a guess. I didn't say it was a guess. I said it was an anomaly. It's a term theory to negotiate the most bulletproof piece of evidence we've come up with. Germ theory, etc., is not a guess. That stuff is ironclad. And germ theory you can also demonstrate. I don't have a problem with germ theory. I'm not trying to say that science is bad, Sutton. What I'm trying to say is that there is zero evidence for the existence of anything outside of this universe, period. And many atheists are absolutely fine with the idea of there being a million quantum universes in which a million different versions of you do a million different things right now. However, you say God and they laugh in your face. Infinity isn't really that strange of a concept. It's just the reverse of zero, the opposite of nothing. Well, actually, that's not true. The opposite of nothing is everything. And everything is a finite number. Infinity is not a finite number, hence the term. Infinity is a abstract idea to basically put as a placeholder for things too large or too small for us to comprehend. And so a number that is so large that we cannot comprehend it, we refer to as infinite. Terry Pratchett, English fantasy author, has always had interesting ideas on gods, deities, and belief through, though he himself was a non-believer. Small gods, good omens, and the Hog Father are worth checking out. Okay. I'm trying my hand at mince and dumplings today. Never done that before. Good luck. Sounds nasty. What's your favorite movie that is non-religious movie but is full of non-specific religious themes, i.e. The Matrix? Well, The Matrix is a good one, but honestly, I would have to say Gran Torino. Why doesn't God just show us? Seems like a bitch move to send everyone to hell that doesn't believe in him. Everyone in North Korea, I don't believe, and they don't get a choice about it. I think it's a little more nuanced than that. However, why doesn't God show us? Quite frankly, / if God did show you, you still wouldn't believe. If your mind is closed to the idea, you know, and in fact, that's even in the frickin' Bible. If you look at what happened with the Jews in the desert, they saw God every single day and every single night. They saw God's handiwork firsthand, and they still built the golden calf. So, yeah. And let's see. And I gotta get just the ones that are addressed to me because I'm so far behind. What if God was just one of What if God was just one of a pantheon, but one God rules over our universe and each rules over his own afterlife? Well, then the existence of other gods would be irrelevant. Because if there's only one God for our universe, then as far as we're concerned, there is only one God. Faith of the Heart Enterprise intro, yes. Gods don't exist. If you raise in Christianity, I was said to finally accept it, but it's the truth. Think of how archaic it is to think Zeus or Thor actually exists. It's ridiculous. Okay, Sutton. However, asserting that gods don't exist and that it's ridiculous doesn't make it true. Any more than asserting that they do exist makes it true. That's just an assertion. That's not an argument. Tolne Janos, or however you say it, says, "Hail, anti-trekker, greetings from Hungary. How you doing? I'm sorry for butchering your name, but welcome." Darren says, "The chicken came first, according to Genesis." Well, it depends on if you take a literal interpretation of Genesis, Darren, or if you think that the Earth is much older. I tend to be an older Earth person. According to science, the likely chance of our universe existing capable is 10 to the 10 to the 123rd against. But if you have an all-powerful God, the chances are 1. Well, that's true. I hope we don't meet the Romulans first. That would be bad, yeah. Q would be a Kardashev scale type 4 or 5 civilization. Oh, yeah. Imagine if Jesus came back and ran for president. That would be hilarious. But I don't think Jesus would get involved in politics. When I was once in a class and our teacher said, "What came first, chicken or the egg?" I put my hand up and said, "The rooster came first." You would say that. Is Auntie more partial to you or Mrs. Anti-Trekker? I think Auntie is actually a little more partial to me at this point. She loves Mrs. Anti-Trekker, but like if I walk out of the room, she tends to get a little upset. YouTube says I don't qualify to do live videos. Well, I don't know why, but YouTube has their thing. Just because the odds are against us existing doesn't at all make it more likely that God, let alone your favorite God, exists. That's completely not even a good comparison. Well, that's also not what I said. Is that what a straw man is? Somebody putting words in your mouth. Yes, a straw man is building up a false version of another person's argument and then arguing against that rather than arguing against what the person actually says. So, for example, if I put out the idea that I believe that God exists because something had to cause the universe to exist, and then you say, well, you believe in talking snakes and that's stupid. That is a straw man because I am not arguing for talking snakes. I'm arguing for the creation of the universe. And so that's a straw man is basically ignoring the actual argument and creating your own version of the other person's argument to fight. Makes it much, much easier. Is that beagle growling? No. I'm in the UK. Okay, I wasn't sure, Dan. Hey, Trey, do you see a motion sensor cam? Do you see a motion sensor cam when you record your fish? No, I do not have a motion sensor cam. Do you use a motion sensor? I do. No, that's not a recording. That's live right now. There's actually a webcam attached to the side of the fish tank. So when I show this, that is a live view of the inside of my fish tank right now. Let's see. The stuff behind you. Yes, I assume you were talking about you like this setup. Why do you have to go to church to be a Christian? I thought God would be a part of every single one of us, and it's a message that counts, and to believe in the teachings of Christ. Yes. Well, here's the thing, Sovereign. If you believe in the teachings of Christ say to go to church. So go to church. Unless you don't believe in the teaching of Christ. So, see what I'm saying? Either you believe it or you don't. If you believe in following the teachings of Christ, then that does mean that you should get baptized. It does mean you should attend a church. It does mean you should be part of community. It also means that you should be a person who loves people, and that can be very difficult. But is absolutely a calling of the Christian to love and care for people, particularly those that do not love and care back. However, unfortunately, in the modern world, most Christians don't follow those basic tenets. Let's see. Black Adam says, I'm a Catholic. I refuse to enter a church. I'm a Catholic, I refuse to enter a church, and I hate the hierarchy of the church. I had family caught up in the scandals, is all I will say. Well, I understand that, Black Adam. However, here's the thing. If you cannot go into a Catholic church because of your past, and I certainly understand that, go to a non-Catholic church. You know, I know, kind of crazy, but you can do it. Some celebrities think some celebrities that still think the world is flat. Well, some people think the world is flat. I don't, but you certainly have the right to if that's what you want. Let's see. And let's see here. Sorry, man. I mean, the algorithm would hit him hard for some of those were. Yeah, you got to be careful if you're putting stuff into the chat. And Sutton, the question that you were asking, and thank you, by the way, Black Adam, because yes, if you put in certain words into the chat, that negatively impacts the channel, and so please don't. And you know the words I mean. For example, words that are associated with a certain German political party from the 1940s, right? And certain practices such as one person owning another person or one person forcing themselves on another person in sexual ways. So those types of words will actually get a channel punished by YouTube right now. So, and yes, I'm responsible for what you put in the chat because that's the way YouTube wants to do it, and I can't change that. However, as far as your comment that the Bible promotes such practices, then you are sadly mistaken, sir. The Bible reports on such things. It does not promote such things. And I understand that there are people that believe that the Bible does promote those things. In fact, those people tried to use the Bible to justify those types of things in the past. However, other people would use the Bible to show that those things are not justified. And what the Bible is about is not, and this is something that a lot of people have struggled with. The Bible is not about how to run a country. The Bible is not even how to run a city or anything like that. It describes what happened with Israel, particularly in the Old Testament. However, the teachings of Christ, which is what it means to be a Christian, is to follow the teachings of Christ, is not about how you run your politics. It's about how you handle yourself, period. And one of the things, like when it comes to the practice, of one person owning another person, it says in the New Testament that, you should be content where you are, whether you are the person being owned or the person who is the owner. And that is not about, and that's not a ringing endorsement of that practice. It's simply saying that wherever you are in life, you should be content in knowing that God is there, that God exists. And if you can't be content in that, it doesn't matter what your station in life will be, you will not be content. And that is absolutely true. You can look at the scale of people across the world, and guess what? There are lots and lots of really depressed millionaires and billionaires out there. Why? Because they have no contentment in life. And you know what? Most people don't. I'm banned from one of my local churches. Made one joke about putting Alka-Seltzer in the holy water, and they get all uppity. Well, that's kind of a mean thing. Fleet Paw throws $4.99 in. Sorry for taking so long to get to it. Says, I'm heading off to Salt Lake City Comic-Con entry. Have a great Sunday. God bless and live long and prosper. I'm sure I missed because this was a while ago, but thank you, Fleet Paw. Thank you so much. Why did God call for male genital mutilation? I'm cutting the foreskin. Why exactly? I don't know exactly. I know that in the Old Testament, it was a covenant with Abraham. A covenant is usually sealed in blood. And I guess they wanted to make sure that they were serious about it, because that's something that only someone who was very serious about it would do. Now, that practice also became irrelevant in the New Testament. Contrary to popular opinion, that is not a requirement anymore. So it's actually addressed by Paul many times in the New Testament that it does not matter if you be circumcised or not. Let's see. You don't become a Christian by going to church, but we're supposed to assemble with other Christians. You're right, John. And that's the thing. Going to church doesn't make you a Christian, but being a Christian makes you go to church. So I think that's a better way to put it. Let's see. In a multiverse, then our universe is likely to have occurred, but then that allows for something to exist outside of time for an infinite universes to occur, allowing an infinite God to exist outside time. Well, here's the thing about that. There can't be an infinite number of universes. There's not an infinite number of anything. And by the way, I'm not going to even say that God is infinite. God is all powerful. That doesn't mean infinite. All right? Everything is finite. There is no such thing as infinite. Also, the church is a group of Christians, not the building. That's also true. The church building is great, but that's why, it's hard to see in the shot behind me right now. That's Corey, our senior pastor, good friend. But if you notice the wall behind him that looks like old, shabby windows and stuff, that's not a set. Our church meets in a rundown old warehouse. We have a pretty large church. At this point, we have over 4,000 people that show up every weekend. And we meet in an old, rundown former warehouse. And you know what? We just decided to buy the building. And that building is like $5 million. You might go, oh my God, $5 million. That's dirt cheap compared to most churches our size. Most churches will spend 10, 20, $50 million on these buildings. And that's something that Corey is adamantly opposed to. However, the owner of this building is actually giving us a pretty sweet deal on it. And so $5 million is what they're doing. And they're basically pumping everything they can into so that we have it paid off within 5 years, because we do not want to have debt, and that's the only debt that our church actually has. Let's see. Actually, thinking on Sovereign's question regarding World War I, is God to blame for evil done by men, when said evil is the end result of man simply using which he gave free will? Is the individual responsible for their own actions? Yes. The only person responsible for your actions is you. Unless there's no free will, in which case, so for those that argue, those Christians that argue that there's no free will, well, then God is not responsible for, or God is, if there's no free will, then yes, God is ultimately responsible. Wow. Do you think it's possible to be a good Christian, one that is even freely accepted into heaven without being baptized? If so, then why is baptism important at all? Is it possible to be a good Christian, one that is freely accepted into heaven without being baptized? Yes, baptism is not your salvation. Think about it this way, and this is something that Corey says in his baptism services. This ring is not my marriage to Mrs. Antitrekker, right? However, this ring is a symbol of my marriage. Now, is it possible for me to be happily married with Mrs. Antitrekker without this ring? Yes. Would it be a little on the disrespectful and shady side for me to be running around without said ring? Yes. And so, and so it's not a matter of, well, why do I have, it's just like before. If you're sitting there whining about, do I have, and I know you're not, Mr. Miles, but I'm just saying, if somebody's sitting there whining about, do I have to get baptized? Well, then they're in the wrong frame of mind. Yeah. And Roland is a traditional Catholic as well. I didn't know we had so many Catholics. That's cool. I'm not a Catholic, but hey, welcome. And let's see. And Roland, I'll hit you up on Discord. And then, let's not get into personal insults here, please. I don't know what happened there with you and Black Adam, but please, guys, let's don't get dirty and mean, because that's not what we're all about here. We're still all just one big nerd community. All right, it's not just because we're talking about religion on Sundays, we are still the nerd community. We are still brothers and sisters in nerddom. So regardless of where we stand religiously. Description does not equal prescription. People who consider the Bible a hate book always forget this. I know. That is a problem. Let's see. Dan says, in The Simpsons, Lisa said God is female before most characters. She says that two are not impressed. Okay. I'm not sure what you mean. And Eli767 is putting some nasty stuff in the chat. Thank you for taking care of that, Black Adam. And let's see here. And Eli, if you're still watching, you know what? This is not a place to troll like that. If you want to put that kind of crap in someone's chat, do it elsewhere, please. Abby Olace puts $5 in. Thank you so much, Abby. I do appreciate it. Says, good morning. Sorry I'm late. Glad to be here for church this morning. Thank you and welcome. So I don't know what's up with Eli putting that repeated message. And let me say this. So Eli's message is basically that trying to equivocate Jesus to some of the horrible crimes that have taken place in the Catholic Church. And I understand that a lot of people have problems with what the Catholic Church did as far as covering up and moving people around and all that. That was not Jesus. All right. And so if you want to try and offend people with that type of comment, well, then you do it elsewhere. If you want to make a real comment and have a discussion about it, then we can talk. Dude, we got a troll who keeps popping out. I will ban him when he appears. Thank you, Black. Yeah, you're on it, Black Adam. I appreciate it. And that's, and then that's the thing, first of all, let me say this. Black Adam is not exactly Mr. Congeniality, right? He says some pretty foul things sometimes. But there's a difference between doing things with a spirit of fun and good nature and to just saying the kind of things that Eli keeps putting into the chat. So thank you, Black Adam, for staying on top of that. I have an Android Samsung smartphone, and these are the religious emojis on there. That's interesting. So menorah, Star of David, I guess that's a satanic star, and little tiny cross. Okay. Mr. Miles says, it would only be shady and disrespectful to run around with the ring if you are doing disrespectful and shady things because it wasn't on. If they weren't doing it already. The only reason that a person should take off their wedding ring, honestly, if you're married, the only reason this ring should come off if you're assuming you're going out or doing whatever, is if you work in an environment where the ring would be a hazard, right? So, for example, if you are a lineman climbing telephone poles and doing work up there, I didn't wear my ring when I was doing that kind of work, because if you lose your balance and the ring gets caught on something, then you're going to lose a finger. And so there are circumstances for that. However, it would be disrespectful to Mrs. Anti-Trekker for me to go out in public without this ring on. That is disrespectful. And that is dishonoring her. Black Adam wants me to check Discord again. You guys in your freaking Discord. That's not Discord. Where is Discord? Why is Discord over here? Let's see. Let's see. And I would say this. Okay, so just a second. Let me see. All right, so sorry. So I just answered you there on Discord, Black Adam. Sorry for being so far behind in the chat. Man, I'm far behind in the chat. I'm just going to go through the stuff again that is addressed directly to me. So if all creation is simply free and self-sustaining simulation that God is watching us, we would watch a TV soap. I got to think of it more like World of Warcraft, because God can, in fact, and does occasionally intervene. Anti-dog spelled backwards is God Itna. Well, that's true. According to the book of Genesis, the creatures of the air, like birds, which include the chicken, since the chicken is not a flightless bird, were created on the 5th day. That is true. Let's see. And by the way, /dash, in answer to your question as far as will people go to hell for not believing, again, that's a misunderstanding of what the Bible actually says. It is what you would go to hell for is rejecting. And so if you reject Christ's message, if you regret, basically it's like if I offer you a free ticket to heaven and you say no thanks, that's what gets you to hell. And so, yeah. Who got Auntie from the shelter? If it's you, she might love you the most for saving her little life. As a dog lover, you're a good guy for rescue. Don't forget to cuddle Pookie as well. Thank you, Bird. Black Adam. Yeah, she, well, we both picked her up. So, it wasn't like one of us that did it. Alexander, the crazy man, is here. I don't go to church. I have not been in a church since 20 years ago, except as a tourist. Well, that's fine, but I know you said you don't believe, and that's why I'm surprised you're here, to be honest with you. Mr. Mouse says, Andrew, do you think it's possible to be a good Christian, one that even freely said without being baptized? I think I already answered that, Mr. Miles. I know I'm behind. Description does not... Wait, I already read that. Dang it. My whole thing got screwed up. Hold on. You got a troll. Read that. Let's see. I knew a guy in the Navy who was single who bought a wedding band so he wouldn't get hit on more in clubs. His girlfriend broke up with him when he found out he wasn't cheating on his wife. Wow. Bird says, if I ever got married, I wouldn't be able to wear a ring. I have a fear of rings. Well, get over it. you you might take it as disrespect, but what about Christians from another culture? A culture where regions aren't important. That's the point I'm trying to make. Well, no, the point is in our culture. I'm not talking about living in a tribal situation in South America or Africa. I'm talking about in the United States today. It would be disrespectful for me to go out without this. Right? That's in our culture. Yes, that is a cultural thing. It doesn't mean that, and so, but as far as baptism is concerned, you are disrespecting God if you're saying, well, I don't want to get baptized. Were you a liney? I was a lineman for the Royal Signals. Yes, I was for several years. Peter says, message on Discord. You guys always trying to distract me. What'd you put here? Oh, that mince and herb dumplings. I'm not gonna even look at it. It's gonna make me hungry. So, let's see. And Slash, look, you and Black Adam need to calm down. All right. I don't know why you guys are fighting so hard about that, but please, both of you, stop. We don't need to turn this into a fight. Because Eli is a straight up troll. Slash, I know you're not, but some of the things that you're saying here to Black Adam, are kind of below the belt. And so, can we? But in answer to your question, can I have a life of evil and sin, and then on my deathbed say I accept Jesus? Can you? Yes. If you're planning on it under false pretenses, no. God knows what's in your mind. That's the thing. And so you can't, here's the thing. You can't, it's not a technicality where they say, ooh, the deathbed confession. There is, in fact, it's entirely possible for you to be, like, for example, Adolf Hitler, I probably just got demonetized for saying his name. But if he, just before he was killed, truly repented and all that, then yes, he absolutely could end up in heaven. Now, is it likely that a character like Adolf Hitler, again, getting demonetized, would in fact repent? Probably not. All right. It would be extremely unlikely. And so that's kind of where I sit on that. But as far as let's see, let's just continue on. From anti-trigger perspective, I'm likely going to hell, even though he believes me to be a good person. Well, yeah, but I'm also, I think you're a good guy, obviously, but you also know that where I stand on that stuff, and I don't hide that fact. And I think that you can respect me for that, because it's not like I'm trying to pull one over on you, right? However, I think it's pretty straightforward as far as the whole heaven and hell thing. I don't believe in any kind of religions. I'm at the job, and this is boring. I open your channel to sometimes for radio. This is to ear the voice. Gotcha, Alexander. No worries. Yep, Miles, that was, say, Miles, that what Catholic Church says every Sunday. Let's see, to me, it's an issue with Christianity. Anything that would punish good people for not accepting their existence is cruel to me. Well, here's the thing. As far as, is it punishment if, here's the scenario. I offer you a free pass, and you say no, and because you said no, you don't get to go into the nice club. You have to hang out on the street, right? Because I offered you a ticket to get into the nice club, but you didn't want it. Well, then it's your choice. It's not, God doesn't punish you. You reject it. And that's up to each individual. And and I do truly believe, there is the one thing that is in Scripture, and I think is a very important Scripture, is that if you seek, you will find. If you knock, the door will be open. If you are truly looking for God, you will find God, and at that point, you have the option of accepting or rejecting. If you accept, great. If you reject, great. But that's your choice. Wait till later entry and show Mrs. Entry the recipe. The hairy bikers are awesome. That sounds horrible, but I will, Peter. Could you please invite me to your Discord? Well, Roland, the link for my Discord should be in the description below. And there's an open invite there. Why do you use Chancellor of Germany in the 40s and get demonetized? You should have used somebody else like Magneto or Darkseid. You're right, I should have. I absolutely should have, Darren. My cousin from Venezuela don't wear a wedding ring. She wears it on her neck and her husband's name like a I'm not sure what that means. However, here's the thing, Black. You understand the point of what I'm saying, right? And I can't speak for Ireland or Venezuela or anywhere else, but in the United States, if I am married to another person, this is this is a symbol of that. Let's see. Mr. Mouse says, all sins are forgiven, but not that one. Not the horrible one of being a good person, but not accepting them. First of all, it's not a matter of sin in that particular case. And we've talked about that, Mr. Miles. If all sin is forgiven, yes. However, you have to accept that. If you don't, and you even said it, when you and I were talking about it, you straight up said, well, I think that everybody should be responsible for their own sin. Well, if so, then that's exactly what you get. If you reject it, you're saying, no, I don't need Jesus to take the burden of my sin away from me. I'll take it on myself. And then you are convicted based on it. So that's a kind of a dumb move. From now on, I suggest we refer to that German dictator who started that last war as Mr. Schicklgruber. But that'll get confused with Mr. Schmeckelbeck. Then we're going to have some problems. Was a good video game once where you hunt and kill a nun, which got banned. I never heard of that game. It's not hanging out in the street, as you said. The choice is heaven or fire. That's not a choice. Well, Sutton, first of all, that's not entirely accurate. I mean, fire, kind of, you could say there's that imagery in the Bible. But as far as what exactly hell is, there are various different interpretations as far as what is hell. Is hell an eternity of torture? I tend to think not. From what I see and my own personal studies of it, hell is oblivion. Hell is utter destruction. And it says that those who are, as far as judgment are concerned, those that are not allowed into paradise are cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Death has pretty straightforward meaning. If you are dead, you are dead. And so that is utter destruction. And other parts of the Bible support that, where it warns you to not fear those that can only hurt your body, fear those that can destroy your soul. If your soul can be destroyed, that would be oblivion. The hairy bikers also do diet versions of their recipe. It's all home-cooked goodness, so this sounds great. However, I'd have to look at it, but we'll check it out. Can't we just name him who must not be named Voldemort? Yeah, you could. I'm not saying they're just different rings. Yeah, but that's not the point of what I was saying, Black Adam. I'm not trying to make a big argument about the rings. What I'm saying is that it is disrespectful for me to purposefully, knowingly not wear this when I'm going out. However, and it's the same thing with baptism. If you know you're supposed to do it and then you say, well, I don't want to. Well, that's kind of disrespectful and you got the wrong attitude. I think the Germans have it on the opposite hand. The ring, that is. Curious little quirk I heard of. I didn't know that one. So what are the rules? You can't offend people or make jokes that may be considered offensive. This is an SJW channel now? No, this is not an SJW channel / However, when you make jokes about sexually assaulting others, that's kind of pushing it over the line. I'm just saying. But so I don't know exactly, because I can't scroll back and read every comment that you and Black Adam had at each other. However, I would, can we just be civil? That's all I ask, / You know that I like you and all that. So, but somehow you and Black Adam, it got a little heated, And maybe there was a misunderstanding. Maybe you didn't mean it the way that Black Adam took it, but the way that he took it was that you were making fun of something that happened in his family that was very tragic. Hell is the absence of God. That is a very common description of hell, yes. I was highlighting that someone like a German dictator guy could get into heaven last minute for accepting Jesus, but a good person that is never convinced won't. First of all, the German dictator guy, the odds of him actually repenting at the last minute is about 0. And the good person guy, I honestly believe if you are seeking the truth, you will find it eventually. And if you find it, you would accept it. Assuming that you're the good person you claim to be, if you have the truth sitting right in front of you, you would accept said truth. Continuum says you could refer to the German dictator as the anti-chaplain. Yes, that's true. Pittler? Oh, I know you're trying to come up with an alternate name. When God closes the door, he opens a window is another saying I've heard. Well, like I said, there's always a way, but the way is always through one source. Rather, I should say, a little label for AH forms part of the word for taxi. That's the answer. Rather, I should say that little label for AH forms a part of the word for taxi driver. So odd. Huh. I never thought about it that way. Even still, what kind of choice is that? It's strange to think that someone that claims to love us would even make a place that would hurt his creation. So much mental gymnastics required. Well, no, actually, the problem there, Sutton, is that we've created hell. As far as what you're thinking of hell is something created by man. Right? Nowhere in the Bible does it depict the devil with a pitchfork and lava pits torturing people for eternity. That is entirely man-made. In fact, the description of the devil himself is not red-skinned with horns and goat's hooves and all that crap. In fact, quite the opposite. That he is an incredibly beautiful human being. Just refer to him as the Red Skull. People will know who you mean. There you go. Mosh Pittler. Does God work of love and compassion? Do God's work of love and compassion, even if not a believer? I'm not sure what you mean there, the Finch. On what hand do Americans wear their wedding ring? On their left. And Peter says, "Bill, be right back." All right. The problem with what's left over war on comedy is this: every joke has a victim. That's true. There are very few celebrities when teenagers joked about that, but when they get older, they believed what they did was joking or wrong. There were very few celebrities when teenagers joked about it, but when they got older, they believed what they did was just joking or wrong. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, Dan, although please try not to use that word if you can, the one that means to assault someone in that way, because I don't want to get in trouble with the YouTube bosses there. I'm not a believer. As a believer, what do you think will happen to a non-believer having often sex with hookers? Well, the same thing to a non-believer that doesn't have often sex with hookers. About the ring and baptism thing, you missed my point to the question. If it's not that important, why is it in the Bible at all? I didn't say it wasn't that important. I said that it's a symbolic, the reason for baptism is you are putting yourself out there saying, I am a believer. I am a member of this congregation. I am a Christian. And it is a symbolic gesture to die to your old self and be reborn into the church. Now, why is it exactly that God wants us to do this? Maybe so that we're not hiding the fact that we're believers. I don't know. But it's simply enough that it says that we should do it. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. However, if you are a believer and you say, do I have to do it? That is the wrong question. Because you're not really a believer if you're asking if I have to do this. Also, a rather fun phrase my father used that you might like, Anti-Tracker. God made his own beard first. Not sure if it's a Serbian phrase, but it works well. with the idea of helping yourself first. Well, that's interesting. However, kind of as far as I don't believe that you should help yourself first. I think that is contrary to what the Bible says. /dash wants to know, why is masturbation sinful? Not sure that I made the argument that it is, so not sure why you're asking me why it is, because I never espoused that it was. Honestly, I don't think that the Bible addresses it one way or the other. However, if you were going to make an argument about it, it would not be so much the act itself as much as what was going on in your mind at the time that you were committing such act. Because what is declared as being sinful is lustful thinking. And so if you're encouraging lustful thoughts, then that would be the sin, not the actual act of touching yourself. However, as far as the actual act of touching yourself, I don't believe that that is actually addressed in the Bible directly at all. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's in there. Bad guy German. There you go. The truth will find you eventually. Well, you will find the truth if you are seeking. People don't like it when Morgan Freeman plays God in movies. Well, he doesn't play God in a lot of movies, but okay. And no, it's not because it's pleasure. God is not opposed to pleasure. The absence of God being hell, I wonder if that concept is why some Christians are so freaked out with atheists. I think that some Christians get freaked out with atheists because they just can't fathom the idea of living without the comfort that comes from God. Or that they feel horrible because of the fact that you would willingly, knowingly face oblivion. Irish Weird on the right, I did not know that. Does anyone find the sketch where Mr. Bean goes to church? Does anyone find this sketch where when Mr. Bean goes to church offensive? I've never seen that one. So I don't know anything about it. The Catholic Church teaches if you truly repent and convert on your deathbed, no matter how bad or evil you were, just like the good thief, you can get to heaven. That's true. But the important thing is that you truly repent and convert. If you do not truly repent and like there was a joke there's an old sitcom called Wings. And in one, it might have even been the very first episode of the series, when the brother that's more the wild party dude is getting off of the airplane with a priest. And as they're walking into the room, he asks the priest, so wait a minute, you're telling me that if I go out and do everything I want to do my whole life, but then when I'm on my deathbed, I convert, then I get into heaven? And the priest said, well, technically, yes, but, and then he just walks away from him, and then he goes up to his brother, okay, I think I got this whole heaven-hell thing figured out. And the problem is that if you create that false pretense, it's not like God doesn't see through that. Of all the religions of the world that you don't believe in the thousands, and yet you believe, you believe you just so happen to have the one that's not imaginary is crazy. You're an atheist 9.9 times out of 10. Well, first of all, Sutton, no, because that's not what atheism means. Atheism doesn't mean I don't believe in this religion and this religion. And atheism simply means I don't believe that there is a God or gods. I am not an atheist in regards to Islam. I'm still a theist. I just don't follow the ideology that is Islam. Theism simply means you believe in God. It doesn't necessarily specify which God you may believe in. Christ did encourage people to have sex and multiply. Wasn't that one of, well, that was the first commandment, actually, Sovereign, was to be fruitful and multiply. And in fact, there is an entire book of the Bible dedicated to eroticism. And if you don't believe me, read the Song of Songs, or also called the Song of Solomon. When I get told to do something, my first question is why, not do I have to? Well, that's fine. But you can, you certainly can ask why, but don't ask me why God does something. I can't answer that. I am not God, and I don't claim to be a prophet, so I'm not saying to speak for God. BIRDOPREY says God supports cloning. Okay. Saying I wouldn't even rape you is not a threat. I would not. But it's slash to see, you do understand that what you're saying, considering some of the things that Black Adam's family has been through, is an incredibly hurtful thing to say. And so I'm just asking that you be a little more respectful, okay? God said to Adam and Eve when he banished them from the garden, I believe, to sovereign, not sure what. I'm not 100% sure what you guys are talking about that, Abby. When I say helping yourself first, I mean, what good are you to others if you can't help yourself first? Well, except that what the Bible says, put yourself last. Jihad got misinterpreted in the Quran. It's actually only one 72-year-old version. Actually, jihad is, if you talk to most practicing Muslims, jihad, it means holy struggle, and it actually is talking about purging yourself of your sinful nature, of becoming more righteous, becoming more holy. Not about going out there and conquering and killing and all that, which is unfortunate. I have lustful thoughts about the new AMD 3 CPUs coming out. Is that a sin? Well, that sounds a little weird. That's all I'll say. And BIRDOPREY, that's an interesting way of putting it. But yes, please don't use that term. You guys have to understand. I get it. I know that sometimes we say words that are considered taboo or bad words or whatever, and we're just joking around. We're not meaning anything about it. But please, please, please keep in mind that the YouTube algorithm can't tell if you're joking. All right. The YouTube algorithm doesn't care about the context of the words. It just sees the words. And when it sees certain words popping up over and over and over in someone's chat, guess what? That person is then labeled as hate speech. My channel has been flagged by YouTube as, and so they are deplatforming me gradually. They keep removing subscribers, and they're constantly demonetizing my videos. And when you guys put that kind of stuff in the chat, it doesn't help. So please, Slash and the rest, stop putting that kind of stuff in the chat. Please. And let's see. When Voltaire was dying in his 80s, a priest in attendance called upon him to renounce the devil. Okay. Voltaire considered his advice but decided not to follow it. There is no time, he said, to be making new enemies. That's an interesting way to put it. I never heard about that. Mr. Steve freaks me out with his toupee skit. Okay. And let's see. And so now Bird is whatever. You guys. Goat cheese mashed potatoes. That's interesting. Thanks, Andrea. There's so much misunderstanding about the Bible these days. There really is. There's a lot of people don't get it, and so they think that, like, for example, people think that God is, and also people project what Christians say versus what the Bible says, right? If you listen to a lot of quote-unquote Christians these days, you would think that the number one sin in the Bible is homosexuality. Simply not true. Gossip is on a higher tier of what's bad than homosexuality. And by the way, the worst possible sin is blasphemy. So the problem is, and besides that, the Bible clearly speaks out against Christians judging non-Christians. That, Paul writes that of course non-Christians are going to do all these horrible things. They're non-Christians. Right, so they're not going to follow the guidelines set forth by Christ if they don't believe in him. So you're not supposed to sit there and point the finger at them and convict them and tell them how they're going to hell. That is not the way to address the world. And I agree with that sentiment, by the way. But that's the world we live in. Alexander says, I'm atheist at 100%. religions are ideology. I'm communist. I'm not ashamed to have sex with hookers. Well, you go right ahead, Alexander. However, your future Asian-born Soviet wife or whatever it was that you said is probably not going to appreciate you having sex with hookers. Just saying. We're talking about God telling Adam and Eve to go forth, be fruitful, and multiply. Yes. Gotcha. Family Guy is good. I agree to disagree on that. I don't particularly find the Family Guy a fun show like South Park. I don't. It seems kind of pointless to me. Antrigger, actually, now that I think about it, Christianity is a bit of the odd man out compared to its other Abrahamic religions, since both Judaism and Islam are sort of books to run societies. You're quite correct, actually, Fed, is that the Quran and the Torah and Tanakh, which are the Jewish Bible, are really guidelines for running an entire society, where the New Testament, which should be the core of any Christian, that's really where the meat is. Not that the Old Testament is irrelevant, but the Old Testament is kind of context for the New Testament. But if you look at the New Testament, the teachings of Christ, it's not about societal level things, it's about personal level things. And that's the whole point, is that Christ came down and said, okay, you know what? You guys are all worked up over the big society things. Let's just focus on you. And here's what you got to do. And, a lot of people hate the idea of loving their enemies and stuff like that. So, and I understand that's probably the most difficult thing that the Bible says to do. All right, so Fed, let's see, says, or rather I should say formed on books that run societies. So, yeah, you Americans and your PG language policing. Hey, it's not me, man, it's Google. Sovereign, it's all on Google, and I have no control over it, and I do not want to lose this channel over some bad language. Mr. Miles says, enter religion, providing comfort to a world torn apart by religion. I love that expression. And here's the thing. There is a difference between religion and God. And yes, religion has done a lot of bad things. There's no denying that, there have been horrible things done in the name of God. That doesn't mean God basically endorsed those horrible things done in his name. Dan says, Monty Python has done a lot of religious stuff. I don't watch Monty Python. I actually like a lot of Monty Python, but yes, they've done some horrible stuff at the expense of religion. However, so has South Park. But the thing about it is, are they willing to make fun of both sides? If so, I can enjoy it, right? And I can own up to the fact that there are certain things about we religious people that is hilarious. Let's see. Alexander says, but Andrew, you didn't answer me. I'm not a believer. As a believer, what do you think would happen to a non-believer having often sex with hookers? It doesn't matter, Alexander. That's the point. The fact that you're having sex with hookers doesn't elevate or devalue you in any way. So that's the thing. If you want to ask me, and that's a problem right now in society. People point the finger at one specific sin or another and try to say, you're going to hell because you're gay, or you're going to hell because you have sex often with hookers, or whatever it may be. And that is simply a fallacy. The only reason you go to hell is because you do not accept the free gift of not going to hell. The problem that people can't handle is that free gift comes from a guy named Jesus, and they don't like him. Or they don't believe he existed. Thomas throws $1.99. Thank you so much, Thomas. Says, number one sin in the Bible is supporting Karoga. Absolutely true. Unfortunately, many of our modern translations have been mistranslated, but it does say that in Genesis, thou shalt not support Karoga. And wants to see number 3. You got it. Let's get a little break here. I do love that. /Dash says Bible sex like the worst porno ever. It's not meant to be porno. Been reading C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, and it makes a strong case for pride being the worst. That's true. I really like Mere Christianity. I think it is an excellent book, and I think that it is a great... if somebody wants to learn how do you be a Christian, read Mere Christianity. The J.J. Prize is only 455 meters long. I can prove it. Okay. Sovereign says, let's see. Monty Python is funny. I kind of like, I like that kind of mentality. I think Monty Python is funny for the most part. Absolutely. American Dad is better than Family Guy. I don't really care for American Dad either, but I just never got into that one. My, personally, as far as crass animated shows, I'm a South Park fan. Morgan Freeman's favorite freckle, I love that username, is in the house. Christianity is the only non-works based religion. I think you're actually correct about that. Basically, the only thing you have to do is accept a free gift. That's it. However, it also talks about the fruits of. So if you convert, then you should be a changed person, and it should be fairly evident. TBS American Dad is improved. I haven't seen it, so I couldn't say. Can you imagine if Anti-Tracker called the shots on YouTube, or worse, lore? No, I wouldn't want to call the shots on YouTube. Actually, if I did call the shots on YouTube, a lot of people would like it a lot more, because I would say, hey, anybody can monetize. We are a platform. We are not responsible for the content you put out there. And advertisers, if you want to advertise on YouTube, the #1 platform in the world, please do. But we're not going to censor based on the content, because we're not going to impose our values on others. That being said, I think that there would be clear-cut standards for example, if you want to avoid getting a adult rating on there. So like if you use 4-letter words, if you put nudity up and stuff like that, you would go into an adult-only category. But I wouldn't stop you from doing it, and I wouldn't demonetize you for doing it. Alexander says, when I'll be married with Gazul, I'm not having sex with hookers. It was the deal. As long as we're not married, I was free to go to hookers. Okay. Good for you. South Park, surprise, surprise, Matt and Trey are Christians. I don't believe they are, Mr. Miles. And in fact, if you really think that they're these devout religious people, you should go watch the Book of Mormon. I don't think that Matt and Trey are Christians. I genuinely don't. And they've made fun of Christianity. They've also made fun of atheism. They've made fun of Scientology, and they've made fun of Mormons. And boy, have they made fun of Mormons. Wow, then my phone's exploding there. What's going on there? Make sure nothing important. Church is live. Thank you. Orville is following me on Twitter. And Patrick is now a subscriber. Thank you. And that looks like that's about it for right now. All right. Just all hit at once. Let's see. Sovereign says, anti-tracker, I know. There goes the chat. I know it's not your fault, but I really find it very funny that Americans pay so much attention to the rules of the speech, but otherwise show so much violence in the media. Well, I do think it's kind of funny the way we are in our society, that we get so weirdly selective with stuff, right? You know, oh, you can't, you say certain words and you get banned from television, right? That's like this horrific crime. You show a nipple and you're banned for life, right? Can't do that. But you show somebody getting eviscerated and that's okay. That really seems weird, that you can go pretty darn graphic with the violence, but with language and sexuality, it's like very prudish. I don't have a problem with categorizing entertainment for what's appropriate for kids versus adults and that kind of thing. I really don't have a problem with that. However, I do have a problem with censorship, the absolute blocking of certain content, even content that I might find repugnant or repulsive, right? As long as it's not entertainment that is depicting actual crimes being committed. For example, a snuff video or something like that. I don't care. You put, if you, it's all, I'm a capitalist. If you put up stuff that one person finds offensive, but another person pays money for, well, then you're going to make your money. Let's see. Let's see. Mr. Miles says, don't forget what the creators of South Park did for Mormonism. Their Broadway thing was a big hit and wasn't insulting to them at all. If you have not seen the Book of Mormon, if you actually think it was not insulting, it absolutely was. I saw it. I saw the Broadway production of it when it toured and came to Nashville, and let me tell you, it is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. You will roll on the floor laughing. However, if you are a Mormon, it is deeply offensive. But the Mormon Church did the smart thing. Rather than try to silence them or fight it, they sponsored it by putting a full-page ad in the playbook or playbill that you get when you go to see it. They put in a full-page ad that says, "You've seen the play, now get the book." Because the book is always better. And they basically they used it as a tool to try and recruit. Good for them. They actually had Mormons there at the theater handing out books of Mormon to people that wanted it. So I applaud the Mormon Church for that, because they took what they should have been all in a huff and angry about it, and they took advantage. That was a smart move on their part. Thomas says, I've been busy this weekend. Well, Thomas, I'm glad you're here, and welcome as always, my friend. FedDoc, here's the sound of Kurogan extermination squads. That just means if you hear Kurogan extermination squads, that just means you're in Kuroga. Shromore says, a lot of Christians set themselves on a high mountain and look down on others, and in doing so, turn their back on God. It's a quote from G.K. Chesterton. I don't know G.K. Chesterton, but that is a wonderful quote, because that is true. If you are if you're standing on your high horse, your high mountain, as you say there, and looking down on others, then yes, you did turn your back on God. And that is blasphemy, my friends. That is something that you do not want to do. And so, keep in mind that the only people that Christ warned about blasphemy were the Pharisees. The Pharisees were the religious leaders of the day, all right, who were teaching falsities and unrepentant about it. And so it is absolutely blasphemy to look down on other people. And when churches do it, like Westboro Baptist Church, of course, is the easy one to point at. There are a lot of churches that do it, but Westboro just does it with a flair like no other. But that is not how you're supposed to conduct yourself. Alexander says, hookers are great girls. They do sex very well. They accept to do sex group. I often have 2 or 3 hookers at the same time. It is more pleasant. With king-size bed, there is enough place. Alexander, knock yourself out, man. That's great. Here's the problem, and is that I know you're just joking around and stuff, but the problem with that kind of an attitude is that, guess what? If you actually lived a lifestyle like that, where you're constantly having sex with 2, 3 women and you're sleeping around all the time, guess what happens when you get married? You get bored. Nothing can satisfy you. It's like any kind of drug. The more you do it, the more it takes to satisfy you. And so if you are living this hedonistic lifestyle where sex for pure pleasure and no emotional attachment, just having it for physical stimulation, then the emotional attachment is cheapened and ruined. Whereas if you do hold sex as sacred, if you do have that emotional attachment, it amplifies the pleasure of sex and makes it so that it is that much deeper and fulfilling an experience. And the best way to do that is to save it for someone you truly love. And in the context of, that's why in the context of Christianity, of Christ's teachings, you save it for your spouse. Because that is the only person that you should have that deep of an emotional connection with. The two become one. Is the space pope reptilian? I believe so. Slash Dot Dash throws £1.99 in. Where's the ship you promised us? Oh, yeah, I know. Slash, you're so right, and I'm so sorry that things have been, my life this last year has been one stupid situation after another with, 2 family members dead and, now fighting with my health thing. I swear this is something that I want to get taken care of, Slash, but I have to, I have to get myself to a position where I'm physically capable of doing things. DJ Odyssey, and by the way, if you want a super chat, Slash, let me know. You want to laugh? A Southern Illinois fair kicked the country group Confederate Railroad off their fair lineup just because of the name. Because they're called Confederate Railroad? Really? Okay. Lore get offended by the slightest jokes. I don't know. I don't know what offends Lore. I've never. Well, I can't say never, but I haven't seen his live streams in a while, and so I don't know what offends him or doesn't as far as online. Darren says, I can't wait for half-naked superheroines and fantasy chicks to come back. Personally, look at Sylvania's Windrunner from Warcraft 10 years ago, and then look at her today. Well, okay. If you want half-naked superheroines and fantasy chicks to come back, I don't think that's going to happen for a while. I think everybody's too woke for that right now. So we try our best to attach labels and meaning to things we can't explain. That leads us to argue with each other. Well, we argue with each other because we argue. And Trigger, and Matt and Trey let them do this. That doesn't mean Matt and Trey are Christians. It just, why would they say no to money from the Mormon church? Especially when it helps the PR of their play, because they could actually go around and say, yes, the Book of Mormon, sponsored by the Mormons. But if you watch the freaking Book of Mormon, it actually is a positive story, but it flies in the face of Mormonism. There's an entire song. It's so bizarre to see this. A beautifully choreographed, wonderfully performed song with a big chorus, and the entire song is the F word. It is hilarious because you don't think of going to a play. You're dressed up, and you had a nice dinner, and you're sitting around with a bunch of people in suits and women in dresses because it's a formal event, and then you're listening to a bunch of people on stage singing the F word. If I went to see a biblical film, I'd expect Bibles in the theater. Well, when I went and saw Passion of the Christ, nobody was handing out Bibles. Mr. Mouse says, they made fun of Mormons, but not in an offensive way. They weren't cruel or mean with it, just like how we here make fun of each other. It's all in good fun, not offensive. I would say this. If I were a Mormon, which I'm not, obviously, but if I were a Mormon, I would probably have found some of the humor in the Book of Mormon very offensive. They make fun of the Mormon system. They make fun of the Mormons' values. They make fun of just about everything about the Mormon church. And Mr. Miles, let me ask you, have you seen the Book of Mormon, the full play? The Fed says, Antrigger responding to response to the Kurogans. Oh crap, flees the border. I don't agree with Antrigger with everything, but I respect his opinion, and I'm willing to discuss things with him. Thank you, Theron. I can't say your name, but thank you. If I were in charge of YouTube, I would not censor, but would require that you select categories for your channel. Advertisers can select which categories they advertise on. Everyone wins. I think that that's a perfectly fair way to do it. And that way, if you want to have lots of advertisers, then you put content, like for example, but you also have to make it clear, right? Like, what is it that is the different categories? 4-letter words, nudity, graphic violence, graphic sex, all those things. If you're depicting any of that, fine, but you need to check it off. And if you don't check it off, so you're trying to get the maximum amount of advertising, and the bots catch that, then they manually review it and they say, yeah, you have a person who's saying it's family-friendly content, and they're saying F you, F you, F you, and showing boobs all over the screen. Then you take action, right? Then you say, no, that's a violation of terms of service. That channel is gone. Tom says, Grog is a small nation with 3 citizens, and 2 of them are spies. That's very true. I'm getting things to look. Let's see. I'm getting things to look at that aren't bad. I'm not sure what you mean there, my friend. Let's see. Blackout says most posts from Alexander. Most posts from Alexander, no matter what he posts. I'm not sure what you mean there, but Alexander is crazy. He is absolute Batwoman crazy. So that's it, but I love him. Let's see. J.K. Chesterton was an early 20th century journalist who began atheist, became Unitarian, and finally became Catholic. The church is beginning to look at declaring him a saint. I disagree with the practice of declaring people saints, but that's interesting. Sovereign says, what are those models behind you on the shelf? My deepest condolences again to you and your wife. My grandparents both passed away recently as well. Thank you, Sovereign. Yeah, for Mrs. Antitracker was rough because she lost her sister last year and her mom just a few months ago. But yeah, so behind me we have the Hathaway, the NX-01, the 1701, the Nostromo, Battlestar Galactica, the I can never pronounce it, the Rocinante, however you say it. So those are all sitting on the shelf right in front of the TV, and of course a Dalek. And there's two versions of the NX-01. There's the original, and then there is the refit that we never got to see that was supposed to be for season 5 of Enterprise. Darren says, I know what offends lore. Okay. Mr. Miles says, I wouldn't even dislike your videos. Well, thank you. I wouldn't even false report you. What's with you guys? Anti-Trigger, how much to do a Blazing Saddles 4-part review? You mean in a similar fashion to what I'm doing with Galaxy Quest right now? I don't know. I'm trying to remember, how much did Captain Redneck bribe me to do this one? I think he bribed me like, I can't remember if it was $100 or $200, so I'll say $150. To get a sexual feeling, you should all play the game from TNG Season 5 episode of that game. I'm not sure what game you're talking about. Christianity is viewed as evil these days by leftist twats. Well, by leftists, yes. Twats, well, that's kind of mean, but I'm just saying there are people on the far left that do feel that Christianity is evil. Mainly over the sexuality stuff. I wouldn't go to a play. Plays are boring. Thomas, let me tell you something. When I was a kid, I was very much into community theater. When I say kid, what I mean by that, like in my 20s. I was very much into community theater and stuff. I love performing in various plays. I was in production of The Fantastics, of Annie, of The King and I was in a lot of stuff. And I really enjoyed it. But I hated going to plays because I agree, plays are freaking boring. You will not be bored going to the Book of Mormon. If it comes to your town, Thomas, you want to see it. It is the single most entertaining stage production I've ever seen. Peter says, I'll have a word with Jeff about that then, Anti-Checker. He's the leader of the JWs around here. He could take care of that. Okay. It's not a sexual feeling. That's a dopamine hit. I'm not sure what you mean there, Fed. Was Book of Mormon similar to the South Park episode on Mormons? No, it was much, much deeper, and it was actually a coherent narrative about a couple of Mormon missionaries that went to, I think, Africa, and their adventures there. Oops, Trigger, sorry, that was for Dan. Okay, that's probably why I was confused, Fed. But no worries. Let's see. Yeah, I was annoyed that Anti-Trigger or Bird-of-Prey and Anti-Trigger didn't live stream yesterday. I was so bored. Sorry about that, Captain Cat, but generally I don't stream on Saturdays. /.dash says, Anti-Trigger 007 Bond lore, please. Well, that's a mega chat. However, I'll tell you what, since we had a little misunderstanding earlier, Bird of Prey, can you tell me which one that is? Quantum of the Force. I'm not sure which one that is, and I will play it for you, Slash. They are held for review. That's odd. Yeah, the way that it does the held for review thing seems really weird in the system, because sometimes what's held for review makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. A Blazing Saddles review might get you banned. Possibly, but I would be willing to do it. I'm on the left, and I don't think any religious teachings are evil. Well, Peter, I'm not saying all liberals feel that way. This is a very specific segment of the left community. It's the Hollywood far-left progressive type. Starship models small. Didn't notice them. Yes, they are, but they are back there. I will be streaming this evening, probably 4 p.m. Eastern or later. Well, that's afternoon, really. Unwind the clean orc porn. I don't plan on watching any clean orc porn. So, let's see. Was that 7.1 earthquake that hit here a while ago because God is angry with me? No, the 7.1 earthquake that hit there a little while ago was because of plate tectonics. Peter says the Bible's in theaters. Okay. We have insults here that aren't mean. I call my best friend the C word a lot and call my cousin a hairy fish effer. We get on brilliantly. Yeah, but this is not there. That's the thing. As that Google determines what is allowed on YouTube, and they are basically being dicks about it. BIRDOPREY, it's MEGGACHAT number 4. Thank you, my friend. So here we go. Let's take a little break, and then we'll wind it up in a couple of minutes here. But MEGGACHAT number 4.
I may have a It's not clean.
Repeat, I do not have a clean
Take the bloody
Yes. Quantum of the Force. By the way, I want to address something real quick. I know Mr. Miles talking to Slash.Dash about that. I've been pushing for cleaner chats. And yeah, out of paranoia. It is a little bit of paranoia, but just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. YouTube has been tightening the belt, so to speak, on enforcing its policies on certain channels. Right? That's the problem, is that they're very selective about what channels they enforce said policies on. And as such, my channel has been getting demonetized a lot. My channel they've been purposely unsubscribing people from the channel. I've had some people report to me that they've had to resubscribe to my channel as many as 3 or 4 times because YouTube keeps removing the subscription. And we have seen now that YouTube is actually searching through comments on channels, and if they see a lot of what they consider hate speech in the comments, they're going to attribute that to that channel. And so I am basically being held to the standard that if you guys throw a lot of 4-letter words into the comments, then YouTube is going to assume that my channel endorses that. Kind of like how some people think that because the Bible describes certain practices in the ancient world, that it endorses said practices. So that's the only reason for it. Is it because I'm a prude and can't stand hearing dirty words? No, it's because I don't want my channel to be taken away. That's all it is. So, and so I want everybody to know that when I ask for you guys to clean up what you're saying, it is not for any reason other than self-preservation. So DJ says someone's mother's going to hurt you for playing this. I know, but gotta do it. Captain Cat, I bet Laura regrets making this video. I think he does. I love Sunday Morning Anti-Church. Hope you keep this going. Love you and your family. Thank you, Abby. I'm going to keep doing this as long as I am able. Let's see. Archer decided to cut the leg of mine, detaching the section of hull plating and holding shields to protect from the blast of the mine. Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from. Oh, you were talking about an episode of Enterprise that you were watching. Gotcha. Alexander throws 2 fake Canadian dollars, says Asian Muslim wife born in Soviet Union forever. All right, my friend. Oh, man. Let's see. Let's see. You don't understand how they can be trying to control adult speech on YouTube when YouTube Kids exists. I don't understand how they can be trying to control adult speech on YouTube when YouTube Kids exist, because they are trying to use hate speech as an excuse to get rid of everything that does not agree with them politically. That's the bottom line. YouTube wants to weed out anything that they see as contrary to their political agenda. This is not a political channel, but when that stuff comes up, I get flagged, and I've been getting flagged a lot. And so, which sucks, let me tell you. They have a series out that uses the F-bomb constantly, has blood. Yeah, I know. But the thing is that they are selective about enforcement. So, let's see. It's also why he doesn't want to say the name of the German dictator guy. Yes, that is correct. But the, yeah. And I got to be careful of that. It sucks, but that's just something, yeah. Abiole says, and tell him the disco dies. And tell him the disco dies. I'm not sure what you mean there. Oh, because Abby, of course, you can pick a super chat or mega chat if you want. So let me know. Let's see. Oh, she says, oh, okay. What's the one where disco dies? That one, please. All right, Abby, you got it. Disco Dies is everybody's favorite super chat reward. Here it comes. And there it is, the day that disco died, Abby. Thank you, though, for your generosity. I do truly appreciate it. I really do. Let's see. And Black Adam says, you owe her another 2 super chats. She didn't know what they were. Well, Abby, do I owe you more super chats? Did you? And if so, then absolutely, we'll get you taken care of. Look, YouTube really screws around with us when Ed Tracker says not to say dirty words. He actually has no idea what words are off limits. That is true, unfortunately. A sad thing about the way YouTube is doing stuff is that they talk about how they're tightening down on enforcing the rules, but they won't tell us what the rules are. So as a content creator, I'm expected to avoid using terms that they deem offensive, but they won't tell me what terms they deem offensive. So that's insulting. There are websites that say they don't post adult imagery, but people do. It's still on there. Yeah. I don't like getting adult messages on Instagram, so I just report the accounts. Well, but yeah. The problem is that, yeah, that it's just frustrating. He says, try not to get flagged with dumb crap. That is true. Thank you, Theron. Antrigger just lied to you and everyone because HypnoTurd is my favorite super chat. I didn't say something else was your... okay, because I said everyone's favorite super chat. I apologize. Everyone except Mr. Miles. Alex, that's our entry. But it's true then, hookers are good girls. I mean, hookers just make life easier. They should be gratified for what they're doing. I praise hookers. Well, you can praise hookers all you want, Alexander. That doesn't make it good. It doesn't. I'm sorry, but it's that type of thing is utterly destructive to strong families. Spinning AOC is my favorite super chat, assuming it actually exists. I believe, has that one been uncovered, Bird? Because I think that one is out there. One more she had put into earlier two at the point I typed that. Okay. I didn't see it, but yeah, so in that case, Abby, you can pick another one then. She says, thank you. Oh, well, you pick another one for me. I didn't know all the numbers for the Super Chat goodies. Yeah, they're in the description of the video. BIRDOPREY is the, let's see. Let's see. I have a favorite Super Chat. Let's see. We'll do an Uber Chat because her last one was a $5. So we'll do an Uber Chat. But, Bird, you get to pick one for me. Because I'm just, my brain is starting to fry here because I'm getting tired. Richie was asking about spinning AOC, but just pick an Uber Chat for me since Abby wants us to pick for her. So what do you think Abby would like? So now I put the pressure on Bird. He has to pick one specifically that Abby will like. And Bird doesn't know Abby well enough to know what she'll like, so it's a lose-lose situation for him. It may be destructive to families, but for a single guy who can't get a girl, a hooker is a lifesaver. Well, Commander, I get why you would say that, but ultimately it's not. BIRDOPREY says Uber Chat number 1. All right, so Uber Chat number 1 is...
This is CNN.
Enough about politics. I'm hot. I'm gonna dance for you.
There it is. Spinning AOC actually exists. So Mrs. Anti-Trekker is in the house. Hey, babe. She says, hey, guys, great show as usual. Thank you, my dear. I do appreciate that because without you, my life would definitely suck. Did you know, or DYI, which actually doesn't mean did you know, but Jefferson Airplane got their name from the aircraft that Thomas Jefferson flew. Okay, I didn't know. That's a new one on me. Everybody's saying hi to Mrs. Anti-Trekker. DJ, of course, says, hail, Mrs. Anti-Trekker, queen of all turds. All bow down before your queen. Yes. BIRDOPREY says hookers were in the Bible. That is very true. And in fact, at least one was a good friend of Jesus. So, yes. Peter says, Miss Anti-Trekker, I sent Anti-Trekker a recipe for you three to try. Yeah. Don't know if you'll want to eat it, babe, but it's mincemeat and, what is it? And hairy dumplings. There's BIRDOPREY in the green shirt. Yeah, that was him. Spitting AOC. Yes, Richie is happy now. Black Adam says, Mrs. Anti-Trekker, hey there, hope you're having a happy Sunday and hope you're having a great time with the new fluffer. Well, Auntie hangs out with me 99% of the time. And let's see, more people saying hi to Mrs. Anti-Trekker because, everybody loves her more than me. Mrs. Anti-Trekker, tell your husband to stop streaming and make an actual video. Wow! / it's just mean. Can you check Discord after the stream? Nothing important. I will. AOC is amazing. Well, I don't know if I would say amazing. She is a person. Loves your beagle, Auntie Trigger. Yes, Auntie is the sweetest of dogs. As you can see, she likes to nap and then nap some more. That is her whole thing. So she gets up to go for a walk a few times a day. Other than that, she naps. That's that's her life. Oh, so hard to be a beagle. All right, so with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Just got a clip of Auntie Tracker saying AOC is amazing. Oh, great. Richie says Auntie the dog does move occasionally. Yeah, occasionally. Well, like she was facing a different direction earlier in the stream. So, yes, she moved at least once. BIRDOPREY is putting a shameless plug for the Teespring Sassy Collection. Wow. Let me take a look at the Sassy Collection here on Teespring. I got to see that. So here is the Teespring Sassy Collection. Chaser of cats, eater of cookies, stalker of cardinals, defiler of cushions, and scourge of the squirrels. Very nice, my friend. So that is a great picture of Sassy. So awesome. So go to the BIRDOPREY shop if you want to get a Sassy pillowcase or something. All right. Hope AOC never goes away. That's gold. Yeah, she's a fun one. And Andre says hookers are amazing, but they are even better when they are in a group. I often with two hookers. I know you said that already, Alexander. Watch out for a Democrat congresswoman wants to prosecute the people who make fun of members of Congress. Yeah. Sovereign says, what a lovely beagle. Cute dog. Yes, she is adorable. But she has her issues. The dog has game over. It's not a dog, it's a sloth. Yeah, I'm beginning to think you're right. Who was the green ghost Vulcan? That was Leonard Nimoy. Don't you get it? The one standing there was, hipster Spock from Star Trek Discovery, and then that was the ghost of Leonard Nimoy. That was the idea that Joshua had there. A beagle-shaped sloth, yes. What? Why are you leaving? Well, because /dash is mad at me for not having a video done, and I'm not going to get a video done if I'm streaming all day. So I do need to get a video done. That's actually is something that's important. Black Adam says this day next month, I'm off to Comic-Con, LOL. So your next church stream, I should be surrounded by thousands of nerds. I will put together a small I don't care package again. Very cool. I look forward to Black Adam. Oh, is Miss Auntie Checker here? Well, she was a few minutes ago, but I don't... yeah, she's still here, it looks like. I think Auntie has the right idea. I think I'll follow and be off to bed. Night, Auntie Checker, Mrs. Auntie Checker. Thank you for the lively church. And thank you, Fed, for hanging out with us. Does Jonathan Archer know you have Porthos right now? Shh. Let's see. Miss Auntie Checker says, /, he really wants to get back to it, but the pain and the medication make it really hard to focus. He will, yeah, it is very difficult. Thank you. But, yeah. AOC will not survive the next election. Probably not, but it's kind of funny. You have to get Zachary Quinto for a spinning spot. Yeah, get all three of them together. That's something we need to do. All right, guys. So BIRDOPREY is going to be streaming tonight, so check him out then. And I got a ton of work to do. Plus, I got to manage to wake up this dog so we can go for a walk. And I'm firmly convinced that Sassy and Auntie are behind the Korogan-Turkestan war. They will swoop in to ravage the survivors once the guns go silent. You are 100% correct. And everybody remember that. Just imagine a battlefield with Korogans and Turkestanis dead on the ground and two beagles eating the bodies.